Hello everyone, it's me Clayton. I just finished watching Black Widow, starring Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, Rachel Weisz, and David Harbour. Now, when it comes to Black Widow, she was probably a lot of people's highlights of the other Marvel films where she appeared in ever since she first appeared on our screens in Iron Man 2. Though, back in the old days of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they didn't exactly allow the women of the cast to get their own movies. So she really was only able to shine in other people's films like Iron Man 2 and, of course, in all of the Avengers movies. But it seemed that Black Widow was going to finally get her just due until the pandemic happened, which basically meant the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe had to take the entirety of 2020 off. But the film that's going to start Phase 4 of the movies is finally here, and I can definitely say the wait has been absolutely worth it. Let's get to the story, shall we? The story takes place during the events of Civil War, where Natasha Romanoff, played by Scarlett Johansson, has to go back to a part of her past which she's long buried in order to take down the man responsible for the Red Room. The Red Room being the training grounds and headquarters for the Black Widow agents, who are, in this case, who are mind-controlled killers who are all around the world and essentially just do whatever they're told, involving killing politicians, starting wars, assassinations, infiltrations, espionage, you name it, they do it. And while she's also trying to take down the Red Room, Natasha also gets to reunite with her family, or covert, mission family, such as her little sister Yelena, played by Florence Pugh, her father Alexei, the Red Guardian, played by David Harbour, and her mother Melina, played by Rachel Weisz. But that's all I'll say about the story without spoiling anything. So, what I really liked about this movie is the fact that not only do we finally learn a bit more about Scarlett Johansson's past, that she's always been more than a little evasive about in the movies, where you get little hints here or there, but not the full picture. Not only do you get the full picture here, but you get to see some cast members who I wouldn't mind seeing more as Phase 4 goes on. I really love Yelena. I think Florence Pugh really steals the show in a lot of her scenes, and she's not only really funny, but she kicks a lot of butt in the action scenes. David Harbour, I think, was born to play the role of Alexei, since the Red Guardian is both the most stereotypical Russian hero you can think of, but also the most hilarious Russian hero you can think of. He's just having a ball in the role. Plus, this film has some interesting antagonists, one of which being the Taskmaster. I won't reveal the Taskmaster's identity, but I will say that the Taskmaster is portrayed, for the most part, how you'd expect from the start. As in, this villain has the ability to copy an opponent's moves just by watching them fight. I always thought having to face a mimic fighter is just a really cool idea to see on screen, and it's done pretty well here. As Taskmaster uses moves from Captain America, Black Panther, and a couple of others to make for a fighting style where nothing about this character is original, but it's mixing in a ton of styles to the point where it makes the fights with this villain unpredictable. And the fights in themselves are pretty much how you'd expect for a Black Widow movie. They're acrobatic, they use a lot of stunts, they even point out Black Widow's posing and her particular way of dispensing with foes. Though Yelena does happen to use the same tricks that her sister does. And I will also say that if I had a few negatives with this film, it's that sometimes the action can overplay it when it comes to how it's also trying to go through deep themes about about self-will and being able to choose your own fate without being controlled by someone. Those are really powerful themes, especially when it comes to the modern day, and they are handled with a villain who kind of reminds me of a Russian Harvey Weinstein. But I do think the action can sometimes make those themes not as strong as they could have been. As in, this message probably would have worked better if it wasn't in a huge bombastic superhero movie. Plus, some of the aspects of some of the characters like Taskmaster that are put into the film are ones that may not be ones that the fans will enjoy. But aside from that, I do think this is a really good entry into Phase 4, And I'm really excited to see what the Marvel Cinematic Universe has for us going forward. So that's why I'm going to give Black Widow a 8.5 out of 10. See you next time.